All right, we'll go ahead and get going. Thanks so much, everyone, for logging on today to be with us. We have Jane here who's going to be talking about engineering and navigating your career changes. We're so excited to have her with us. I'll go ahead and introduce her. But before I do, if you've been on with us before, essentially what we'll have do is Jane will present probably for about 15, 20 minutes, and then the last 10 minutes or so will be questions. Please send me directly messages, direct chats for any questions you'd like to ask for the end, and we'll handle those. So we're excited to have Jane with us. I'll introduce her, and then we'll get going. So again, Jane is a campus recruiter at KPMG and actually started this February to support the Baltimore and Virginia recruiting efforts. She's a graduate from Towson University and has both a background in recruiting and marketing. So thanks, Jane, again for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brian, for that introduction. So I'm going to get started and try and share my screen really quickly. Are you able to see the presentation?
Perfect. Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So my name, like I said, is Jane Adeosun. I've been with KPMG since February, but I'm basically kind of just going to talk about engineering and navigating your career changes. And so I'm just going to kind of start from the beginning. I graduated from Towson University in 2017 with a bachelor's degree in healthcare management and a minor in business. I can tell you, I think I changed my major about 3 or 4 times in the 5.5 years that I was in school. And it got to a point where my parents kept telling me I couldn't change my major anytime or anymore because every semester or so I was like, I don't like this major anymore. I'm going to do another one because I was just always curious and I wanted to find something that I was truly interested in. Eventually I did graduate with healthcare management, but it didn't take me very long to realize that I wasn't really interested in healthcare management. But funny enough, my first role outside of when I graduated was in a hospital, but I was in the HR side and I was doing recruitment for nurses. And I actually really, really liked my time there and I loved recruiting. I loved everything about recruiting the nurses. I loved that it was like helping people find their dream job. But I was always curious about whether there's something else that I would like more than recruiting. So then I decided, what did I like in school that was different from recruiting? And I was like, marketing. I think that's interesting. So I decided to kind of like pursue marketing and see how I could get a role in marketing outside of recruitment. So basically today, I'm just going to tell you my story, how I was able to basically switch from recruitment to marketing and then eventually come back to market or in recruitment as well. So the first thing that I did, and what I always recommend, is kind of like getting some direction. What path are you looking to take? And I wouldn't say that it starts once you graduate and get your first role. Sometimes you can start thinking about this while you're in school. So I knew that I was kind of interested in marketing when I was in school. So I did a healthcare internship, but I also did a marketing internship as well, just to kind of get not only the experience in case I decided to change my mind, which I did, but also really kind of understand truly what like marketing was going to be separate from healthcare. And so I always like tell people, if you're interested in changing your career, you should kind of like sit down and think about things that you're interested in and what you think you'd be passionate about. And from there, kind of go into doing some research. And that includes always kind of starting. I think the best place to start is really at job descriptions. So if, say, you were interested in becoming a real estate agent, go onto Google and kind of find what a real estate agent does and reading the job description, because that's going to tell you what skills they're looking for, the responsibilities they're looking for in someone as a real estate agent or whatever role that you're interested in. And that can be kind of like your foundation to figure out how you can switch from whatever you're doing prior to this new role. And then you want to also kind of focus on how to build those skills that you did find that they're looking for in that role and kind of sell yourself on those skills. Like, hey, I may not be a real estate agent now because I'm from finance, but these skills that I gained in finance can be transferable to real estate because of this reason. And then you want to also kind of establish a realistic expectation. Some of these things don't happen overnight. I can tell you, I think I applied to about 200 positions before I even landed my marketing role, but I always saw it as kind of practice and helping me improve on it. So even if I didn't get the job and they said no, I'm like, okay, that means I got to fix my resume again because it's not good enough to even get it in front of a recruiter. And even if I did get it in front of a recruiter and I did an interview and they said no, those questions that they asked, I always took note of them and tried to practice on them so that the next time I did land another interview, I was able to answer those questions correctly or be able to give a better kind of answer or response that I thought the employer was looking for. And also, it also helped me to practice being in front of people and being able to sell myself. Like, how do you sell yourself on something that you basically have no experience in or you have no knowledge of? And I can go into a little bit deeper about that later, but I also want to talk about, you want to update your resume. Updating your resume, I think, is the most important part in the beginning stages, because nowadays a lot of companies use computers or AI to kind of read through resumes before it even lands in the recruiter's desk. So you want to make sure that your resume stands out against all the other competitors that might have that experience that you don't have. And kind of like my little cheat that I always do is I look at the job description for the role that I'm interested in applying for. And they always have words basically like, oh, say you want to be a marketing coordinator and they want you to have experience in social media platforms. Then what I would do is take that, and either it was an internship or something I do currently, or even if it's just kind of like a hobby of yours. Like, for example, I post on social media. I'm like, they call me like a foodie basically. So I post on social media all the time about new restaurants in the area. So I put that on there, even though it wasn't necessarily work experience, because it showed that I had experience in social media and that's what they were looking for. And so I would always kind of word it, not saying that I was an expert in it, but I would say kind of working knowledge of social media practices or working knowledge or project management tools and things like that. Basically showing them that I know at the very least the basic knowledge of what the skills they're looking for, and I'm working towards it. But also it helps you not get kicked out of the system by the computer, and actually helps you land your resume into the recruiter's lap so they can actually look at it and then from there decide if they want to interview you or not. And then also, I think something that's really, really important is networking. Networking will probably be your best friend, whether it be in the current company that you're in school, or just on LinkedIn, like with complete strangers, because 9 times out of 10, people are always happy to sit down with you and talk to you about something or share any insight they have with you. So now I'm going to go into building on the skills that you would need for this role if you're looking to make a career change. From the time that I've been looking for jobs and had my role as a recruiter and in marketing as well, what I've learned in doing a whole bunch of interviews and looking at job descriptions and applying for jobs, companies really, really, really focus on soft skills. And these are the skills that aren't necessarily kind of taught, but it's basically kind of, it shows them how you're able to work in a work environment and how you're able to interact with each other. So some of the skills that companies really do look for and is very important for you to highlight in your resume and highlight when you do talk to them and use it in examples as many times as possible is like communication. They really want to make sure that you're able to communicate with your work professionals and be able to communicate with not only the people that you work closely with, but other people that you may not work closely with as well. So if you have like a role that you're interested in where your previous role wasn't client facing, and then you're moving into a client-facing role, you want to focus on how you've communicated with your teams and how you'll be able to communicate with these clients in this new role. You also really want to focus on teamwork, because a collaborative environment is something that a lot of companies are moving towards, and it's something that they really strive for. And so you want to make sure that you have examples of teamwork. It can be, even if you just got out of school, it can be, you know, working on a project with your classmates. It could be in an internship, working together with other interns. Just showing that you have that skill, teamwork skill, is very important. And then there's one on here that I didn't put, which I've noticed that a lot of companies really look for, and they really will pick people over, is being able to work under pressure and being calm under pressure in a fast-paced environment. Because a lot of times, wherever you go, no matter what role you take, there will be deadlines of some sort. So if you can show that you're able to get everything done in time for the deadline and not, you know, be burnt out or freak out, or be able to be calm under pressure, that's something that companies really like, because sometimes a lot of the work can be a lot, and there are times where you'll be working crazy hours, or you have to drop something in a moment's notice. And just being able to show that you can work under pressure and be able to maintain yourself and maintain professionalism is a really, really big skill that companies do look for as well as being adaptable. So if you said you were working on one thing and then they ask you to do something that's completely out of your realm, one, I always say take it, because that's another skill that you do learn, but it also shows that you're able to adapt to the environment that you are, and it'll also help you to gain more skills that you wouldn't otherwise have before. So I know when eventually I did land my marketing role, it kind of turned into a marketing project coordinator role. So not only was I doing the marketing side, but I was also doing project management. So now I have project management skills that I didn't have before, that I have gained, and also have that I can use if I decided I wanted to go into project management. I can say, hey, I worked on these projects when I was a marketing coordinator. So I also think it's really important to just take, if they do give you projects, just take as many as you can, because it's basically always a learning experience for you. And you also want to focus on time management, because like I said, there's always going to be deadlines, and they want to make sure that you're always able to get everything done in time. The difference between soft skills and hard skills is something that can be trained. Soft skills aren't necessarily something that can be trained, but it's something you do learn over time and you can build. But it's not something that a company can say, hey, we're going to teach you how to communicate better. So while hard skills are very important, I think soft skills are the ones you really want to truly focus on, because that's where companies are leaning towards and looking for when you're interviewing, and you want to be able to show examples of that as well. And so I'm also going to focus a little bit on networking, career development. So when I decided that I wanted to go into marketing, and since I had no experience in marketing, I decided I had to figure out kind of like what exactly I was interested in marketing. So I started talking to people that had those roles, whether it was a social media manager that I knew, someone that graduated that now works as a marketing coordinator, reaching out to them. I think, and I will say this, LinkedIn will be your best friend, because it not only helps for alumni, for people that you knew when you were in school, but also for professionals, for companies that you're interested in. So it never hurts to kind of just, I always say, put yourself out there, reach out to people. 9 times out of 10, people will be willing to help you or talk to you, or if anyway, pass your information or resume along. So I think LinkedIn is a very, very, very useful tool that I also know helped me a lot, because when I was looking for marketing roles, I would find a position that was on LinkedIn, try and do some like sleuthing and like some crafting to find out who posted or who worked in that company, and then I'd reach out to them and then put myself out there and say, hey, my name is Jane and I'm really interested in this role. Is there someone in the company I can talk to about this role, or can you give me any pointers or tips onto how to be successful in interviewing and things like that? And I've actually had a lot of success in people reaching back to me and giving me pointers, and it's helped me grow, not only in interviewing, but also grow my network in as well. So now I have a lot of people that if someone reached out to me and was like, hey, I want to get a job in marketing, but I don't know who to reach out to. I'm like, hey, this person talked to me before and they helped me, so I think they'd be a great person to reach out to. But also alumni, your alumni network is something that I think is very useful as well. I have reached out to previous and past Towson graduates, and say, you know, I graduated from Towson too, and I see you work at this company. I'd love to be able to sit with you, or can you pass my resume along? I think that's very useful, and it has been helpful for me, especially when I decided when I was in marketing that I wanted to go back into recruiting. I reached out to all the people that I knew that I met when I was in recruiting and said, hey, do you know any companies that are working or looking for a recruiter? Do you know how I can make myself look better, even though I'm no longer in recruiting, I'm in marketing? And they gave me pointers and tips and showed me kind of like how I could sell myself, and saying that, hey, I was in recruitment, but I'm no longer in it, but I'm trying to get back into it. And I think something that I also did, it doesn't even have to be on LinkedIn or alumni, but even in the company that you're in, reach out to people in those departments that you might be interested in. When I was in the department for my marketing role, I reached out to a recruiter and told her that I was interested in going back to recruitment, and kind of just understanding her role and what she did in the company. And also, I kind of took it upon myself that on my team in marketing, I would help them with their recruiting efforts. So any positions we had open in our marketing department, I would help them recruit for it. It was looking at resumes, it was you know, onboarding or reaching out to people or scheduling the interviews. And so that gave me a little bit more of the skills that I needed, and helped me build and kind of get back into recruitment, because I was doing it hands-on in my current role, and also working with the recruiter in the company, and it ultimately helped me land my role at KPMG. And so these are just kind of like little pointers that I like to give to people. It never hurts to ask people. It never hurts to kind of just put yourself out there. I submitted so many resumes, and even if you have your resume out there, at some point someone is going to look at it and someone's going to reach out to you. So I know a lot of times they, you know, it can be like disheartening if you get a rejection, but I always say, if you know, always try again, like keep putting yourself out there and don't give up, because I was able to switch from recruiting to marketing back to recruiting in the span of like 3 years. And it's because I put myself out there, and I also let myself and sold myself that, hey, this is something I'm really passionate about and something I'm interested in. And I think that'll be what's really important for you to be successful when you're trying to navigate any career changes that you do have. So yeah, that's all I have.
Thanks, Jane. Such good content. I've written down some things you wrote, and I love it. So thank you.
Awesome.
We have, as I mentioned to the group here, I think we're getting some feedback. Jane. Okay. All right. So we have a question that's already come through, folks. As we're going through the questions, feel free to message me any question that came up during the presentation directly to me, and we'll get to those. Jane, the first question is, you mentioned reaching out over LinkedIn. A lot of times we get questions about, you know, what is that specific language? What does that initial message need to look like? From your perspective as a recruiter, what tips can you offer for candidates reaching out to make the best impression to recruiters?
Sorry, can you hear me? Okay, yep. Awesome. I think for me, and being a recruiter and also being someone that was reaching out to recruiters, I always start with a simple just hello and introduction to yourself. And then from there, just say, if it's a specific role you're interested in, you can always kind of allude to it. But typically I just start with a little introduction and a little background about myself. So for example, I can be like, hey, my name is Jane. I saw that your company was hiring for a marketing coordinator, and I'm really interested in it. I'd really like to take some time to talk to you or chat with you about the role, or any future, you want to kind of also talk about any future opportunities that may come up as well. And so even though you may not get that role specifically, it's important to kind of like keep in contact with those people. And I know that like I have people reach out to me, and I always tell them, we don't have anything open now, but I'll be sure to keep you in mind. And so I do reach out to them if something does happen, but that's because they're continuously keeping in contact. So I think it's really important to keep reaching out, keeping in contact with them, setting up some time to talk to them, also asking them about how they like the company, because they will be honest about it. And sometimes you think that the role is what you think it is, and then when they explain it to you, it's something completely different. So it also gives you some more insight into the role and also the company as well. And like I said, it always starts with a simple, like, I just like connect with them. And then once they do connect, you can just say a simple, thank you for connecting with me, and then introduce yourself. And then from there, kind of like explain if there's a role you're interested in, or you just want to keep in contact with them for any future opportunities as well.
That's great. Thank you. And then someone had a follow-up on there is, what is your preference for the frequency of those reach outs?
I think, at least for me personally, it depends. So when I was looking for a job, I think I reached out every time I saw a new role on there. I think for me in my role, if I reach out and I say there's nothing open, I would wait on maybe a few months, at the very least 3 to 4 months, because it kind of takes, that's around the time it takes to have like a new position open, and then reach out again and see if they have anything open. Or if, like I said, if you see something and then there's another role that pops up 2 days later, you can also reach out to them as well about it. But if there's nothing tied specifically to it, I would say every 3 to 4 months, kind of like a quarterly thing, to like just check back on them, even if there's nothing open.
I like that. If there's something open, reach out. If you're doing it proactively, definitely put some time between that. I like that.
Yep.
We had a few questions about soft skills. The first one is, they're asking about the development of soft skills. You as a recruiter, you're placing people, you kind of hear some feedback sometimes of how that person's doing and whatnot. How do you suggest people develop soft skills wherever they're at in their life right now?
Yeah, so I think it's important to start now while you're in school. Internships are very helpful if you do have an internship, because you can show through your internship that, for example, if you want to do something with teamwork, you're working in a team, internships can help you because you're working with other teams. Also, you can also prove it from working on projects in school. So time management, I know when I sold myself, I juggled being in school and being in school full-time and working part-time. So that showed that I had time management, because not only was I focusing full-time on school, but I was also focusing on work outside of school. So how was I able to juggle school and work together? And not everyone has to work or has to have something else, but it could be a hobby, it could be projects that you're working on. You just basically kind of like want to find ways that you can basically either work with a team or work with someone, or I know for me, like for a while, public speaking wasn't my biggest like friend. So I joined a club for public speaking and practice on that. Putting yourself out there in clubs, like any associations that you have, also can help you, because those are really important when you graduate, because most of the time recent graduates don't really actually have experience. But as a recent grad, you can show it through the clubs that you've been, associations, projects you've worked on, assignments you've worked on, and also practicing, going to any of your career fairs that you have. If they have mock interviews, please, I encourage you to do those, because those have been so helpful for me, because they will give you feedback. Reach out to, those people that are doing the mock interviews, practice with them. And because when you get real-time feedback, that's what's going to help you continue and grow, because then you learn what you're doing right and what you're not doing right. And also going to job fairs as well. You can also meet with recruiters there and talk to them about it and say, hey, can you help me with practicing on my time or attention to detail? That's something that's also very important, attention to detail. Whether it be like a paper that you're writing, if you notice like a spelling error, if you send an email out to professionals and there's an error in it, that doesn't look great on you. So you want to focus on that, starting with simple things like your papers that you're sending out or assignments that you're working on. Little things like that will help you build those skills and help you hone in on them while you're in school. So when you get into work, you kind of like already have them in place.
That's really good. And one thing you said in there is often what I tell students is the idea to like pursue feedback wherever you are. I don't care if it's a part-time job. I don't care if it's a full-time job, whatever you're at. And even especially alumni too, is that sometimes for supervisors, giving feedback on soft skills is kind of uncomfortable. It's easy to say you didn't turn this on time or you didn't turn that in on time. It's easy to give feedback on hard skills. It's not so easy to say, hey, your tone when talking to that person isn't great. So try and focus on your communication. Like that's not easy for supervisors. So when meeting with a supervisor and when talking to people that oversee you, be proactive in pursuing that feedback and saying, hey, I want to learn and grow. I know I'm not a finished product. I'm very open to hearing things about myself that need to grow. So please do, make that a comfortable environment for the supervisor, and I know I'm talking a little too long. I'll wrap it up. But I think sometimes people assume that supervisors are comfortable doing that just because they're the supervisor. And they're not always, especially on soft skills, not comfortable providing feedback on that side. So pursue feedback to grow. You kind of mentioned that, and I really like that a lot. We have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
We have time for questions. Perfect. We had another one that someone's hitting on, in the idea of, you mentioned applying to a lot of jobs and remaining resilient. Did you have a personal strategy to just like continue to remain resilient as you're just kind of grinding through applications?
Yeah, so I think for me, if I applied for one job and usually they say no really quickly, depending if they have like very good very good applicant tracking system, they'll probably say no to you immediately. But I was living on LinkedIn and Indeed, and every time a new position popped up, I would apply to it because there's a chance they might say no to you. There's a chance they might say yes to you. I was also doing it because I wanted to be able to get in front of these people and basically explain myself and sell myself, even if I didn't get the job, because it was going to be practice for me to get the job that I really wanted. So even if it was a role that I wasn't entirely interested in anymore, I always tell people never say no to an interview, because that's practice for the job that you really want. Because then you can get feedback from them. They'll tell you, hey, we just decided that we wanted someone with more experience. Okay, well, maybe I can find a way to put myself out there to show that I have more experience. So I always took it, even though they said no to me, that I would keep applying anyway. I applied to as many jobs as I could, because even though I applied to 200 jobs, I would probably only get like 10 of them interested in interviewing with me. So you want to put yourself out there so at least you have multiple like ones coming back to you and interested in you. And so that's literally what I did. And it is tough, and there are some times where you'll feel down, but I always say never give up, because there's someone out there that's willing to give you, to kind of take a chance on you and give you a chance, but you need to put yourself out there first.
I think that's great. It's almost like the more that you apply, the more rejection you might get, but the more response you might get. So like, don't be afraid. I think that's great. We have just a minute or two left here, and a good question someone's asking is there a sense, you can obviously mainly speak from KPMG side of things, but is there a sense of the job landscape, especially for KPMG, of is it growing, is it diminishing? How have you seen that that growth potentially amidst what we're going through with COVID-19?
So especially, I think right now for KPMG, obviously with everything going on, there's a halt. But it doesn't necessarily mean that companies aren't looking for people. I think they're really kind of just more looking at what they have now and what they need and what they don't need anymore, and kind of like redoing that and reorganizing everything. So I don't think it's that there isn't any opportunity. It's more that companies are now taking the time, because they have it, to focus on what they have now and see, is it something that we really need? Do we need more roles for this? Do we have the capacity to take more people? I know, for speaking personally from our team, we're going through a transformation right now, where we're really looking at the job descriptions of the roles that everyone has, because a lot of people kind of have like half and half roles, and really focusing and trying to fix that and tweak it so it makes more sense, and people are not just doing half and half roles and really solely focusing on one thing and one thing only, so that they're good at what they're doing and really just helping them build on that specific thing that they're trying to do. And I think a lot of companies are trying to do that as well. I think that companies are also going to come out with more positions, you know, towards the end of the year, once they finally, you know, have time to sit down and look at where they are as a company. Unfortunately, there are layoffs with other companies that I've heard of, but that also kind of makes room for other people because there might be other opportunities that will come available as well.
Yeah. And it kind of a couple of things to sum up it all. I think you said an awesome thing there. I haven't heard an employer or someone say exactly that way of this is a time for reassessing, and then companies are likely going to hit it hard in the next 3 to 4 months as they've reassessed and reprioritized. I think that's such a great point for people to hold on to, that right now things might feel a little dim and a little weird, but you know, we're really expecting, I've heard from a couple other people something similar, that you know, we do expect in the next 3 to 4 months towards the end of the year that reprioritization to really hit hard with more jobs coming out. And the last thing, to focus on the career changes in engineering and navigating the change. Jane, I would think you would say the same thing, is this is the time to network. What a wonderful time that if you are thinking about a career change, know there might not be the number of jobs right now. You know, people are still hiring, but there might not be the number of jobs. This is the time to really network and set yourself up towards the next couple months and towards the start of the year to have people in your back pocket and have people advocate for you, so that maybe a career change is really there for you once people have reprioritized. So really good stuff. We appreciate so much your thoughts. Any kind of last things in your head before we sign off today?
Nope. I want to encourage everyone, not to, even if you think that you may not succeed, you will. Just put yourself out there and kind of like don't give up, because that's basically what I did, and that's what helped me be successful.
Really good. Thanks so much, everybody, for signing on today. And thanks so much for Jane for taking the time to both prepare and deliver this presentation. Have a good one, everybody.